Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive.
Game over!
Take it light. Okay.
Now you're more fluent.
Mackinac, he's got three!
Up, Bears.
So this is really good right here. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Thanks, Chill. Thanks, Chill. Jalen, man, how you doing, man?
I'm good, surviving another day, another grind, like you said.
It's been a minute, I feel, since we've last spoke. I hear your that other network.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are doing a big a battle thing.
Yep. Battle thing is coming.
Have you been
recruited? Yes. Your boy will be partaking
as one
in
of the
battle
members. Is it like mandatory that you have to join in on the festivities?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not sure if it's mandatory, but I'm in it. We in the tournament, ready to take it down, take down the W, one by one, take them down. I think you should. Hey, Fluent, you coming in?
Me?
Yes, come on.
They can't afford me.
Okay.
I'm expensive. I'll judge because the one thing I know about those battles that has occurred in the past, is the judging has been horrific. And the problem is when you have judges that they believe, like if you say, I don't know, give me a debate, the sky is blue, the sky is green. No, that's too obvious.
If I say Magic Johnson is better than Larry Bird, the other way around,
there you go, perfect. And so the judge believes Bird is better.
Yeah.
And so if the two competitors are like the one saying Magic's better, the other saying Bird is better, they don't care who's actually made the better point. They're like, well, I believe Bird is better. Competitor A said Bird is better, so I'm going to vote for them. And I feel like I've seen that a lot, and it's hard because most people are very biased to their opinion, whereas I would look at it from a different perspective and say, I don't care what I believe. I'm going to go with who made the best points. And not a lot of people have the ability to do that. A lot of people say, I'm unbiased. But you're not. Like, one of the things I was going to ask you about, because we had a panel on and we talked about this Tom Haberstroh article. But you said something to me that you said the reaction. Let me quote you correctly because I don't like to misquote people. And you said the reaction to the article paints the real story.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that was the reaction to that story as shown by a lot of very pro Jordan channels, such as, I don't want to say name, but Uncup Hoots, Scap Attack, the usual LeBron haters, Jordan defenders on Twitter. You have, a couple of these individuals too of along those lines where instead of it just being, hey, let's look at the article, find some, you can find some flaws in it without a doubt. Maybe watch the games with people, go on an avenue, watch the games and see if it fits. Instead of that, it's become now most story, again, not saying you, but most of the talk is Clutch Sports has sending minions to attack the legacy of Jordan. LeBron gets there. Somehow a LeBron thing, the LeBron thing comes into play too. When all to me, again, once I read the article again, broke it down, like I understand there's flaws within the article. I think the sample size is very short, Now, again, data-wise, I haven't watched those games that he's watched, so I can't tell you if everything there is accurate. But that data that he provided, if you take for his word, is fine. But if all you had to say was, hey, again, the sample size is too small, let me watch the game, see if the stats were inflated. And even if they were inflated, let's just say they had more steals. Again, to me, what I've said too, the steals and blocks thing don't carry as much weight to me because we've talked about before. There's so many ways steals and blocks can be, don't tell you the whole story, especially on defense. So it's just, again, so the narrative and the talk that this article brought went to a whole other world versus, hey, let's watch the game and see if it's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think because there was such little research done, actual research done. The connecting of the dots was so far fetched. So I understand why, if you're a huge Jordan guy, now I have Jordan as the GOAT, but Jordan isn't even in my, when I'm trolling, it's different. But as we speak legit, Jordan isn't even in my top 10 in terms of favorite players. I have him as the best player I've ever seen, right? And I have LeBron 2, and I have Kareem 3, and I have Magic 4. And Magic, I stand on this. I believe if Magic doesn't contract the HIV virus, because people forget he was still in his prime. They want to say he was old and done in 91. He was not. He had won back-to-back MVPs, and he finished second to Jordan in 91. He was still in his prime, and that team that went to the NBA Finals that beat, I want to say, Portland to get to the NBA Finals, because most people thought it was Portland. They thought Portland was the best team.
Yeah.
And then Portland ends up making it the next year. So Portland made the NBA Finals 2 out of 3 years. People forget. They went and lost to the Pistons, and then they lose to the Lakers, and then they make it back to the NBA Final and lose to the Bulls. That being said, that team, people forget, Byron Scott was young. Eldon Campbell was young. Vlade Divac was young. And so you had a prime Magic, and it's still the Lakers. They're probably going to add another piece to that team. James Worthy wasn't young, but he was still, 30.
Yeah,
he wasn't old, right?
Yeah.
So that team in the offseason would have added another piece, and that team would have been right back in it again. I believe if Magic doesn't, if he stays and plays those next 3 to 5 years, I believe, one, you don't have the Bulls dynasty, because I think the Lakers win at least one more, and it's probably going to be against the Bulls. I believe he wins another, if not MVP, Finals MVP. And I believe he not only gets the all-time assist record, he might have the all-time steals record too, in Magic Johnson. And that changes. I think now, if you got a guy now who's been to, at that time he had been to 9 and won 5. So if he makes 10 or 11 and wins 6 or 7, and he's the all-time leader in assists, and he's the all-time leader in steal, the same case you kind of make for LeBron, that he's like, well, he's the all-time leader in scoring. He's been to 10 finals. He won 4 of them. You're going to have that debate with Magic, because you got a guy who doesn't score as much as LeBron, but is more efficient in his scoring. Like if you look at field goal percentage, true shooting percentage, the amount of shots he takes, LeBron takes 20, he took 13, and he's still averaging 20 a game. So, and he leads the all-time in assists and in steals, and he's been there 11 times and won 6, let's say. That's gonna be a real, like, you're gonna have a hard time with that conversation. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, so he's out.
Actually, that would have been better. I would have liked that, because I think the argument for Jordan would have been based more on his play, his kind of peak value, what he did on the court, versus the 6-0 ring thing, which I think is just the worst argument in sports. I think it's a terrible argument. So I actually think that would have been a lot better for Jordan in some cases. But I see why, again, that argument.
Anyone who says 6-0, doesn't really know sports.
That's what I'm saying.
But here's the thing. But if that's also happening, I don't think Jordan retires, because he's got now someone, right? Because he said, I want to pass Bird, I want to pass Magic. And now Bird breaks down and he's out. Magic, then he's out.
So you think he retires the first time?
I don't think he retires the first time, because if Magic is still there to push him, he's not at the pinnacle, because people are going to say, you're not as good as Magic. You might score.
Quick conspiracy theory, though. Would David Stern still force him to retire, though?
Well,
that's what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying.
Now, listen, this is how much it's so funny, because people call me like a Jordan fan. And the hilarious thing is, when that happened in 91, I blamed Jordan. I said he paid somebody to at the hospital to inject Magic with HIV. I don't believe it. It's bull. Yeah, like I was so angry. Magic's my favorite player. Magic's the first person I saw play. Magic is the guy that got me into basketball. Magic, like, it's all about Magic for me. So it was, I hated Jordan. I hated the Bulls. I hated that what happened, because, and that's what you do. You play. So
and I think people today don't understand how big of a deal that was for the level of athlete he was to have HIV, and the stigma around HIV at the time. People didn't know what we know now. So I don't think people realize how big of a deal that really was. And even to that, I don't even think I could really put the cause. Like I can look back and understand it, but again, you really have to live through it. I think you really have to live through it.
It was such a huge deal back then, and it was also had this stigma of being like a gay guy's disease, and now Magic gets it. It was really hitting the black community really hard, and so there was a lot of things that Magic getting it went to a lot of people just open their eyes and like, oh, whoa, hold on a second, because there's a lot of people who say, I don't know anybody who's contracted, I don't know any gay people, I don't know this, I don't know that. It's not going to affect us. That just opened up all those people's eyes, right? The sports world, the straight community, the black community, everybody just kind of went, oh, hold on a minute. This is Magic.
100%.
Right, this is Magic. So now, there's some people who say he still doesn't have it. And it was all just a thing for publicity to get people to believe that it was a dangerous thing.
Interesting. So he just walks away from the game for several years. Yeah. That's true. They pay him.
I apologize. I really had to finish that. But back to the article. So here's the thing. So I see what you're saying, that a lot of the people, listen, when you attack someone's idol, they immediately go into defense mode.
This is very true. Yeah, it's very true.
Just think about it. I will give you a fact about LeBron James. And what is the first thing that comes out of the 90% of people in the comments?
Oh, but Jordan did this. Oh, no, I hear you. Oh, but what about Jordan? No, that's true.
No, or you're a hater. Or you're just a hater.
Yep.
I'm like, hold on. Is it someone, we were talking about free throws, and someone said, you can't convince me. This is actually on my TikTok. You can just see right now. You'll never convince me that 14 of 19 is bad.
14 of 19.
And I said 14 of 19 is 73%.
Yeah, I mean,
And so look, taking 19 free throws, getting to the line 19 times, that's great.
Impressive. But
let's say you did let's say you got to the free throw line 19 times a night for your entire career, which is wow.
Yeah.
And hit 14 of them. Well,
yeah, I mean,
you'd have to go back to 1969, 1969 to find the NBA average being below 73. It's in the 75 to 77 range every year.
Yeah.
So if you're 3 to 4, 5% below the league average, keep in mind that's with guys who are shooting 50% from the line. So the league average is the the benchmark is there. So if you're below that, I said, well, that's not good. Why isn't it good? I said, because it's below average. Well, that's still good. No, if it's above average, it's good. If it's average, it's average. And then if it's below average, it's below average. And by definition, below average is not good. You're just a LeBron hater.
I will say, I think
you weren't even talking about LeBron.
Yeah,
but right away, because they know that he shoots 73% from the line.
I will say, I think someone's getting to the free throw line 19 times a game and giving you 14 of 19, every game.
We were talking about one game. And
they're exactly.
You can't tell me 14 of 19 is bad. I'm like, it's 73%. So if you take the percentage, my point was not about the 14 of 19, because you're right, 19 a game.
That's more valuable than someone going, 8 for 9 every game or 7 for 8 every game, right?
Right. So I said, but the percentage, I said 73% isn't good. And they couldn't get over the fact that, well, because that's LeBron's average, I'm attacking him. I'm like, no, I'm just saying if you shoot. And then they said, well, what about MJ? He shot below league average in 3-point percentage all of these years. And I said, yeah, those years he didn't shoot well. He was a bad 3-point shooter those years. And then they disappeared because it's like, oh, you admitted he did something bad? Yeah.
It happens. No player's perfect. Like you said, no player's perfect. Someone you have to have a flaw somewhere.
Those seasons. Now, if you want to get into the game of basketball and say, well, he was only shooting 0.6 a game. So when you're missing, even if you shot 0%, if you're missing 1 3-pointer every 2 games, it's not really affecting the game. But from a percentage standpoint, yeah, there's a lot of years where he shot under 30%. That's bad.
I do think it just speaks to their greatness together in itself. If the worst thing you can say about the person is Jordan couldn't shoot threes, yes, I mean he played in an era where threes weren't really as relevant as today. You didn't need to be dominant. And the worst thing LeBron doing is shooting 73% from the free throw line while giving you everything else. I'll give me LeBron James every day. Yeah, I'll take that every day.
I'll take it 100%. So because you said the way that they reacted. So I want to touch on quickly why they reacted that way. Because when you look at this, I want to point out 3 things, and then we'll get to Team USA NBA free agency, and maybe a little outlook onto the future. So he starts the article. So I'm not gonna read it. I'm just gonna give you chunks, right? He starts the article by saying, hey, the depoy is one of the most, Michael Jordan's is one of the most biggest parts of his game, because it's the thing that sets him apart from guys like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, LeBron James, because none of them ever won a defensive player.
I don't like that argument either, but
I don't like it either, but that's what he says in the article. So he's so okay, sure. If the only reason you have Jordan over LeBron is because he won a depoy, I would say you need to work on your game. You're going to lose the debate show because that's not a strong enough argument. That being said, so he talks a lot about Kareem, Magic. He has the depoy and those guys don't. He says, but when we take a closer look at the 87-88 season, it reveals a substantial discrepancy between his home and road statistics, raising questions. It never raised a question before. So I find it interesting that 35, almost 40 years later, now it's raising questions. Now it's raised. Why is it raising questions now? Because it hasn't. His numbers haven't changed in 40 years. They've been the same. Look
them up.
So he says considerable evidence, both statistical and corroborating video, suggests that Jordan's Defensive Player of the Year award may not be as valid as we thought. So he's attacking the Defensive Player of the Year award. He talks about Jordan's resume, his 6-0. We ignore that. There's again, he talks about that. I want to make sure. Oh yes. So he says in 86-87, Jordan's third season in the league, he became the first player in NBA history to register 200 steals and 100 blocks. Michael Cooper won the Defensive Player of the Year that year. Michael Cooper's numbers are nowhere near Jordan's. In fact, Michael Cooper comes off the bench. He only plays 25 minutes a game. Completely different defender. Jordan, in a Sports Illustrated article, they ask him, and he goes, I think I'm a better. What's he going to say? I stink? No, he's like, I think I'm a better defender than Michael Cooper. I think if you look at the stats, that dude didn't play. Like, he's good at ball denial, but there's more to defense than just ball denial. I play all the offense I have to put up, because don't forget, I think that year he averaged 35 points a game. Mm-hmm. And I'm playing lockdown defense, getting steals, getting blocks, doing everything that needs to be done. So he was typical Jordan fashion, because he didn't even make, I believe, all defensive team. Right. So he's like, whoa. And I think he only got one vote for Defensive Player of the Year. So he's upset. And I'm just, again, going through what the article says. So he takes a shot at Michael Cooper. Even Michael Cooper goes, yeah, man, you should give him some respect. He's a great defender. So then he says, Jordan didn't stop reaching. By the end of the season, right, he went for the record of steals in 87-88 to prove his point. The eye-popping stats, this is the one thing I want to point out. He says the eye-popping stats propelled Jordan to his first Defensive Player of the Year award, earning 37 votes from writers, earning 37 votes from writers, besting rim-protecting centers Mark Eden and Hakeem Olajuwon. So a couple of things of note, and we'll get to this guy in a second. And I've talked to two other voters of Defensive Player of the Year that year. They said we didn't really look, the stats are there, but they weren't that different from the year before. We watched him play. Even in the article, Bob Ryan says, I gave my MVP vote to Bird, and kind of as a consolation prize, I gave him the Defensive Player of the Year award because he's a phenomenal defender. And he admits, yeah, I probably suspected home stats were inflated, but I still would have voted for him. It's right there in the article. He says it. Yep. So now you got Bob Ryan, who we've interviewed as well, and two other guys who voted, all saying they still would have given him the award. Well, so then they weren't just looking at the stats. They all said, even in the article, he says, so does it put into question the Defensive Player of the Year award? So that's what, again, I'm just making the point why those Jordan people would have jumped on him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Here.
So then here's how he ties these two things together, which I think is crazy. An NBA stat keeper blows the whistle. Rucker, who is a CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Texas, who was once a top executive for the 76ers in 2020, was a 19-year-old scorekeeper for the Vancouver Grizzlies in 95-96. And while at a training session, they were looking at tape.
Mhm.
And he said, well, that's not an assist for John Stockton because I don't see the casual connection between the plays. And one of the scorekeepers said, or they all said, whatever, that's an assist. And he goes, no, I don't think it's an assist. And they said, yes, it is. It's John Stockton. That's an assist, according to him. Now, do we trust him? Do we believe him? Do we even know who the hell he is? I don't know. He's 19 years old, and he's talking about it 20 years, 25. Well, I'm trying to do my math. 30 years after the fact.
Mhm. Yeah, tough memory. You'd have to have
That's,
a pretty impressive
hey, if he can remember that, I'm not saying he's not wrong or lying. What I'm saying is, so he has said that they told him that you got to give the Stars the benefit of the doubt. In fact, he even says in the article, if it's a 50-50 ball, you give it to the Star. Well, don't refs do that every single day?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I think out of any sports league in the world, NBA star treatment is a known thing. Star players are gonna get the free throw call, foul call. It's just
Hold on. Is it just basketball? Because let me ask, if Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, Minnesota Vikings, one of the best wide receivers in football, is going up against no-name cornerback, Bob Smith, and he goes up for a ball, and they're jostling for the ball, and he doesn't catch it, are they calling offensive pass interference or defensive pass interference if it's a 50-50 call?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. If the 50-50 ball, they're probably more
We're gonna go
inclined
with
for
the star
just
player.
Yeah. I just think the NBA it happens more because I think there's more plays.
There's more
Yeah.
plays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's not surprising.
Yep, not surprised.
So now he takes that from a guy in 95, 96 and says, oh, well, let me look at, Sharif Abdul-Rahim. Oh yeah, his home road splits are huge. And he pieces that together and says, well, I should look at Jordan's depoy. What? How could a guy from the late 90s who did this in the 2000s immediately direct you to Jordan's depoy? So that's where people like Uncut and whatever go attacking him, is because, well, here's a guy in Tom Haberstroh who, for the past 7 years, I don't know if you know this, he's been going out telling everybody 7 years ago, LeBron's the GOAT and Jordan's a fraud. 7 years ago, he's been targeting.
Jordan fraud is crazy, but LeBron the GOAT.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you have LeBron as the GOAT, Jordan as the GOAT, Kareem as the GOAT, Magic as the GOAT, it doesn't matter. It's your own personal opinion. But he's been on a campaign to disprove Jordan's status for at least 7 years. Go look. It started back on the Dan Le Batard show.
I don't even really know. I mean, obviously, I've seen him before, but I wouldn't even know him by name before this article. So he did his job there. His price probably went up.
100%. 100%. So he ties in this guy, the stat keeper from the late 90s, early 2000s, with this depoy, which makes no sense. He then says, well, his home road splits, and I want to talk about this one in particular because he talks a lot about this guy. He talks about Jaren Jackson and his home road splits, just like last year when he won Defensive Player of the Year. And they went and looked and said everything was fine. Okay. So Jordan's alarming home, this is one I love. Jordan's alarming home road disparity. And so he said, fueled by coaches and media's non-recognition as an elite defender, Jordan took it personally. Well, that's always what he did. And his numbers, he says, was a huge difference from the year before. I just wanted to let you know, if I may. I'm going to pull them up because I don't want to, again, I like to be accurate. Hold on. I probably should have had this ready. I might have to plug in my phone here in a second. We're going to be in trouble if my phone dies. La 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 la. I don't want Jermichael. I want Michael. They gave me Jermichael Finley. I don't think he has anything to do with this.
I was gonna say, I don't think he's the guy.
He is. Yeah, he's definitely not the guy. All right. So if we look at totals. So huge discrepancy in steals and blocks from the year before. He said he really pushed it. In 86-87, it was fine. He had 236 steals. In his Defensive Player of the Year, he had 259. Is that a huge? Is 23 steals over the course of 82 games huge?
22 steals over the course of 82 games. So I mean, it's such like a 0.6 per. Yeah, no, not huge.
23 divided by 82, because Jordan plays all the games.
Yeah.
0.28. Not even half a steal per game. And yes, for the record, he played 82 games both seasons. So it's literally 0.28. Blocks, 125 to 131. 6 more. Is that a huge? He says in the article,
for the home road splits, 131.
125 to 1 is 6. It's 6 more blocks.
Yeah, no, that's basically nothing.
So for him to say, "Oh yeah, he really like upped his game from one year to the next," no, he didn't. Now the next year he still gets 234 steals, but he's down to 65 blocks. If anything, I'd be going after the blocks than the steals, because the steals are pretty consistent. If you look at it, 236, 259, 234, 227, 223, 91, 92. He has a down year, 182, and then back to 221. The blocks are the only thing where it goes 125, 131, 65, 54, 83, 75, 61. I'd go after the blocks personally.
No, I hear you.
You know what I mean?
As he got older too, maybe he just stopped chasing blocks, or
well, yeah, you lose your legs a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to say that. Might be it.
And like when you look at the per games, right? It's 2.9, 3.2, 2.9, 2.8. That's not right. Even the blocks, even when you look at the blocks, 1.5, 1.6, 0.8, 0.7. So the numbers are lower. But still, again, I would have gone after the blocks. So that's right. So right away, now you're going red flags. What do you mean the numbers were whopping? No, they weren't. He converts it to 36, like per 36, to make the number seem worse. That's another thing. And then he says this: but the size of Jordan's 87 to 88 gap is unprecedented. And that's a lie, because if you look at the top 100, now he's going to say something in a second, and I'll get to that in a minute. If you look at the top 100 home versus away splits, Jordan's at the bottom of that list. So there's like 90 something that have a bigger road home split, and not all in the 80s and 90s. In fact, Kevin Durant in the 2000s is way higher. He's like top 25 in home road splits.
Oh, wow.
But then he says, well, this is the biggest one for a defensive player of the year. So
that caveat.
So now, okay, and it might be, but interestingly enough, Mark Eaton, who's the other guy he was going against that year, is second. Alvin Robertson, who won DPOY 2 years earlier, is third. So now, does that make it okay? No, but what I'm saying is, you've already started with all this kind of stuff that's questionable. So it looks like a very targeted thing. 2 more points, and then we can get, like I said, to Team USA. And NBA free agency. So then he brings up, so this is why I don't like the article. Then he brings up the Bob Bryant thing, which we already talked about, who Bob Bryant already said, yeah, we've had questions about stats forever. And, even back to Wilt and Russell, how many blocks they really had, blah, blah, blah. We've always had that, but and then he says, I still would have voted him defensive player of the year. So that doesn't change anything. Then he brings up René Lassis, the man in Latvia. And you know why you haven't gone and watched those 6 games?
Because it's not available anywhere.
Only one is available, like on YouTube. And apparently this dude in Latvia has them, and the two of them, and gave them to Tom Haberstroh, and they watched them together.
The NBA doesn't have like a Netflix product of their own where they just have all the games.
Apparently, this was in those years. The NBA didn't own the rights, right? They had either CBS, TNT. Like the broadcasts were all local, televised.
Yeah,
right, by
they would have recordings somewhere.
They might not. No, they might not.
That's a lot. That's true. It is a lot.
Not full games. Not full games. But if you recorded them on VHS, that's really the only way you have. So here's what I say. So that's where I pause and I go, hold on. Well, if they have 6 games, then post all 6 games on YouTube and let everybody else go and watch. And this is And this is why I say, well, hold on, because you won't do that. Well, if you won't do that, that tells me, I look at it from a court of law. You've accused me of something. It's on you 100% to prove that I've done that, right? Like you say, hey, Tony came and killed my cat. I saw it on video. I have the video of him killing my cat. What's the first thing the judge is going to ask you?
What's on the video?
Is it, or is he going to say, show me the video?
Show me the video. Yeah, show me the video.
And if you say, no, I won't show you the video, trust me.
Yeah, it's judge will be like, all right, we're out of here. If you don't bring up the videos, case is done.
So he goes to this guy from Lafayette. FYI, he's a youth vice president of youth basketball, and the definition of a steal is different there. In fact, he talks about steals where he says the person who tips the ball to another player, the player who catches the ball, gets accredited with the steal. And the answer is not always. If I tip the ball to you and you catch it, and I purposely tip it to you, I get the steal. If it's if it's unintentional and I get it to you, then you get the steal. And guess who makes that decision? The scorekeeper.
Yeah.
And guess what the scorekeeper didn't have in 87, 88, or until like the 2000s for that matter?
Replay.
So now you're asking a guy, have you ever sat at the scorer's table?
No, not score. I can imagine though. I don't think it's the best view in all parts of the court.
At the scorer's table, imagine, and there's 10 6'7" and right. The average is 6'7", 200-pound guys standing in front of you, and you got to see
all that
who tipped the ball and who got the ball. It's not going to be 100% accurate. It's just not. Now, and when you're at home, hey, if I see it bouncing around and then Jordan comes up with it and starts dribbling down, or anyone for that matter, it could be LeBron James, it could be Kevin Durant, it could be Steph Curry. There's a melee and I see Steph Curry come out with the ball and start dribbling. I'm going to go steal Curry. Now, I do have one game, full game, that we watched, which was the game against the Celtics, March 18th. And there's a play, and here's a perfect example of it. The scorekeeper is here on what side of the court, and all the way on the other side of the court, down in the low post, where all the players are blocking you, all the refs are blocking you. Larry Bird turns to the basket, and Jordan goes at him and swipes at the ball, and Horace Grant comes from behind and tries to steal the ball from behind, and it comes out, and Horace Grant gets the ball and starts dribbling. Now, did Jordan tip it to Horace Grant, or did Horace Grant pull it out? Now, from the other side where I have the camera view, you clearly looks like Jordan may have touched it, but Horace Grant just pulls it from behind and goes. But from the scorer's angle, it could have looked like he went here, Jordan tapped it out, off to Horace Grant. That's a 50-50 ball that I go, am I going to give that steal to Horace Grant, who's a rookie, who plays, 7 minutes a game, coming off the bench, or am I going to give it to Jordan? Now, if I had replay in a different angle, I'd be like, oh, Horace pulled that out, that's his. But if I'm sitting there in the bang, bang moment, and the player, and don't forget the announcer, if you've ever known the scoring table, who sits next to you, the scorer goes, oh, Jordan with the steal to Grant. Oh, okay, yeah. That's what you're going to do, right?
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you.
And all I'm saying is, I'm not saying they didn't give him extra steals. What I'm saying is, if it's a 50-50, you can't tell and you got the announcer saying Jordan got the steal or whoever got the steal, you're going to go, okay, and you're going to mark it down because you don't have. So I'm saying is there a big conspiracy? Did they do it on purpose? One last point. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't think there was a big conspiracy. I think it was probably known that star players will get the benefit of the doubt in a lot of these 50-50 calls.
They still do.
Exactly, they still do. So I'm not out of the conspiracy. Yeah.
Right. Like, I went back and watched, remember that game that LeBron, and I did it to be a dick. Let's be honest. I went back and watched that game where LeBron had, it was actually March sometime too, where LeBron had 17 assists against the Raptors.
You mean LeBronto? The greatest LeBronto, the greatest version of
He had 12.
Because some of those assists were
he had 12. He had 12.
12 NBA assists, 5 LeBron assists. That's 17 assists.
By rule, he had 12.
By rule,
because
I saw the George Hill one. The George Hill one was.
I don't know if There's he had 12, but you know what? I don't blame them. I'm like, wow, he's having a huge night, and it was close. I'm going to give it to him 100%. He even says assists, but he says I'm not going to go into assists. I'm not going to go into this because there's no big award for it. I'm like, hold on. Yes, there is. So you're telling me if I go back into LeBron's, again, just to play devil's advocate. LeBron's MVP season, and I found that he had 200 fake steal or assists. That's not going to affect his MVP award?
No, without a doubt, that would.
Of course it is.
Yep.
So he says red flags emerged when we had this 10 steal game, and this is the one. This is when you know you're being tricked. He shows. I'm going to show you the article. He shows a video of Jordan getting 10 steals. Actually, sorry, an NBA video where it was the game where Jordan had 10 steals. They don't have the full game tape. Again, guys, you have to remember this. So they show a highlight reel and there's only 6 or 7, and people are like, well, where's the other ones? No, they didn't have the whole game. And so right after that, he says, so they show, this is the mind trick. Here's a 10 steal game, and then says, on this game, Atlanta at Chicago, November 20th, 1987, the Atlanta Hawks only had 10 turnovers. And do you know what all the little TikTokers did? How can Jordan have 10 steals if Atlanta only had 10 turnovers? How can he have more steals than they have turnovers? Because it's not the same game. But he did it in that order because when you say, if I show a picture of you, right, and I say, like in the news, and I, and I'm talking about Jalen Carter selling ice cream to underprivileged kids. I leave the picture of you up, and I say, a man is wanted for the death, burglary of this CIBC bank, and your picture's still up. What do people think? They think you're the one who's responsible.
Yep, I hear you.
Right? Yep. So when you show the 10 steal game, no, he had 5 steals that game. He had 5 steals that game against Atlanta, not 10. And now, can we watch?
So he wasn't fully lying, but he was playing trickery. He knew what he was doing, and he
puts it on top because people and it worked because, like I said, there's people all over TikTok saying, "How did he have 10 steals if they only had 10 turnovers?"
Yeah,
different game. So there's a game here, March 18th, like I said, against the Boston Celtics, and another TikTok person said, "Well, show me the 5 steals." That one game is full on there. So I said, "Okay, I'm doing something else, but fine, I'll go watch. I love watching basketball. I'll go watch that game." So there's 3 steals that are no question about it. 100%. Jordan intercepts the pass and goes.
Gotcha.
100%. You can't argue those. Then there's 4 more steals where either Jordan tips it out to somebody else, 2 players go up and it tips and Jordan gets possession and goes. There's one where he intercepts the pass, takes a dribble, and then the other team gets it back, so he never really gets possession. But again, it's in a crowded area and it's on the other side of the court, and the announcer said Jordan would steal. Oh, back to the Celtics. 100%. 100%. Now, did he earn all of those? No, but if there was 4 50-50 balls, you wouldn't give the superstar 2?
I would.
If there's 4 50,
yeah, 50-50.
So when I say he had 3 for sure and then 4 50-50s, okay, is 5 crazy? Is it a huge conspiracy? No, he was involved in those 4 plays, and he either tipped it or came up with it, and in both cases, depending on what happened. So again, I'm not saying that maybe he only had 4 real steals that game. Maybe, but is it a huge conspiracy, that 5th one? Nah. And then the last thing he does where he tricks you is he says, and then we can move on. He says the guy, the scorekeeper, he says his name, Bob Rosenberg. He says Bob Rosenberg was the scorekeeper, and he would give signals to Jordan and stuff to let him know, hey, you need 5 more to break a record or whatever, right? And it says, although he's never been formally charged, it says there was times, where he was accused of stat padding. And this is what I love. In the late 90s, like 97, 98, he was accused of giving Dennis Rodman extra rebounds. In the same paragraph, he says, Dennis Rodman, who won Defensive Player of the Year, although no official charges were laid, except by putting it all together, what does he make you think? Well, he's the guy that gave Rodman extra rebounds so that Rodman can win DPOY, except those were 10 years apart, and he wasn't the Detroit scorekeeper. He was the Chicago scorekeeper. Someone accused him of giving Dennis Rodman extra rebounds. He then slides in, oh, by the way, Dennis Rodman won a DPOY of the year with, and then says, but he was never charged. So as a reader, what do you think? Oh, it's the same guy.
Same guy, same team.
And he cheated for Dennis Rodman. No, this guy's been with the Bulls since like 1902. he wasn't the one doing the rebounds for Dennis Rodman. But again, someone who doesn't read it thoroughly or doesn't have good comprehension skills wouldn't understand that that's not what happened. All right. So and then I think the last piece of this that I'll leave you with, which is, like I said, why I think everyone went after him, is the recap, right? So if you admittedly are trying to prove someone's the GOAT, so you're biased, right off the bat, people are going to question it. 2, when you say a bunch of stuff that is easily kind of questioned like that, and you try to do those tricks, people are going to question it. When you 3, draw conclusions, 6 games. Let me ask you this. Did he watch 6 away games to say, well, is the away scorekeeper taking away steals and blocks from him? Never once did he say, is that? So you're telling me the scorekeepers are frauds and they'll give their star players extra stats at home, but they're completely honest for the road players? Does that sound logical to you?
I see what you're saying. It could work both ways.
At least check. So when this came out, you're right. The Jordan lovers came out and said, and all I said was, we need more research. I go, this is inconclusive, because if I gave this evidence to a judge, he would say, sorry guys, this is inconclusive. You need to go watch more games. You need to compare it to the road versus home. And then there's, I guess, 2 more points, but I'm not long, short. Who funded the project?
I'm sure who did fund the project.
Nick Wright.
What did you say he funded? He
paid for it and helped. He was involved in it.
Nick Wright?
Nick
Smartest
Wright?
guy on TV. Smartest guy on TV.
Sure. Right. So right away, red flags, because it's Nick Wright, rightly so.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, he says, and the road home splits since the 60s, 70s, 80s have gotten closer and closer and closer and closer and closer every year to now. There's almost no difference on average in the NBA. Do you know why that is?
I'm guessing they play like less back-to-backs, or they get more rest time in between travel.
Almost no back-to-backs. They got private jets now. They've got like
there's a lot of variables in play that was
so many. When you have to go on the road, take a charter plane or a bus, and you played. I think they showed a stretch where the Bulls in that 87-88 season had like a 13-game road trip where they played like 8 games, 3 back-to-backs. And then, right. And it's like, and then at home, they had a night off in between every single game. They had 18 games where they only played 18 days at home where they only played 6 games. And guess what? I'm going to be a lot fresher at home, right? That's part of now we're getting stats better because guess what? We also have replay. So when you add in travel, commercial versus private flights, and the power of replay, because betting, right? If there's a steal that's not a steal, someone's going to complain. MGM be like, dude, I lost my parlay because of that.
Yeah.
So there's reasons. So if it was happening for everybody, and we know the reasons, is it a big conspiracy?
I'm with you. Definitely not a conspiracy. The one thing I really took out of this article, going back and looking at the DPOYs and stuff, and I think I mentioned earlier before too, is how in the world did Alvin Robinson, Michael Cooper, Michael Jordan, Mark Eaton, Dennis Rodman, Robinson all win DPOY before Hakeem Olajuwon? There's no way in universe. Like going back watching that, Dennis Rodman was never the defender of Hakeem Olajuwon. He was good. I'm just saying, if the criteria is best defender in the league, which a lot of people do, I understand some people are bullying, but a lot of people do. There's no way Hakeem Olajuwon loses those years. It's ridiculous. Hakeem Olajuwon was the best defender in the league, essentially from his 3rd season. You can make a case for that second season, but 3rd season for sure until about 99, maybe 99, 2000. Yeah, the best defender without like it's clear.
But who was watching the Houston Rockets?
Fair. That's fair. They exactly. So they weren't watching future Rockets, but this is why this award to me in general.
Was he the best? Was he the best defender or one of the best defenders every single year? 100%. But like, I guarantee you, if you go back, like, who was watching Houston Rockets games?
I hear you. But every time I go back and watch a Hakeem Olajuwon game, what this man is doing on defense is, I just don't think people get it. Like, he was so far ahead. Like, it shouldn't even have been a debate.
Oh, 100%. I listen, if he's playing now where everybody sees right? Way more. They have, sorry, not C's, because they don't. Because here's the thing: people say, "Oh, you have access to way more games now, so people are watching more." No, they're not.
People are watching really Pistons games too. I
They're
hear
not,
you.
yeah, like you're not. And honestly, you only have so much time in it. Like,
exactly in your life.
is anyone watching 5 games a night just because there's 5 on? No, because typically most of them are on at the same time.
Yeah,
So
people get mad at me. They were like, you're talking about Jalen Duran. You didn't watch more than 6-7 games of him." Yeah, I probably watched maybe 6-7 games. What do you want me to do? Spend my whole life watching 80 games of the Pistons?
well, just do the math. Like there was, I remember Dub. I want to say Dub and Mars put out this video about this guy who went back and watched every game. He said of whatever, I don't know who it was, and says, and he only dribbled with of the 80s or something. And said, oh, they only dribbled with their left hand 33% of the time. And I'm like, I call bullshit. And they're like, why? And I did the math. I said, if he watched every single game, that's like 2,000 games times 48 minutes, even if he had them, which he doesn't, even if he had every game and he had them chopped up so that he only saw the 48 minutes of gameplay, no timeouts, no commercial, blah, 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 which we know is not true. Even I go, it would have taken him 15 years to do that, which means he wouldn't have the last 15 years of data. So there's no way he could know.
Yeah, there's no way.
What you're claiming, it's humanly impossible. And I said, and the 15 years was if he never slept and was watching games 24 hours a day.
He had no life.
He just sat there 24 hours a day watching the games. I go, it's unrealistic. So let me go back. So here's why no one was watching, right? So the Rockets 42 and 4, I'm going back. His first season was what, 84-85. The second year, I think they make it to the NBA final because Ralph Sampson is there. And then listen to their win totals throughout the 80s. 42, 46, 45, 41, 52. There's a little blip. 42, right? So this is a team that's borderline, they're finishing 3rd, 5th, 4th.
Yeah.
He's not getting the credit because, one, he's not on a good team, although he's putting up, again, if you watch him, you'd say he's probably the best, if not one of the best defenders. But you're looking at a team that was defensive rating in those bad years, or even in the good years when they won 51 games, they were 14th out of 23 teams, their defensive rating. And don't forget, the team that you have to be top 5, your team, to even be considered. Go back and look. Okay, this one, they're
which
third.
Is a flawed metric, but cool.
100%. 4th. Okay. 4th. So he has valid team 11th. First, that one, 89-90.
They were first, and he didn't. Who won an 89-90?
89-90. Yeah, they were first. They were first in team defensive rating. But my point is, when your team's not winning games in an era where you don't have access to every single game, you're not going out to watch Hakeem Olajuwon and the Rockets, unfortunately, because you're missing out on a guy who probably should have. Like, he should have way more defensive player of the years than Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, Hakeem to me should have had like 8 to 10. And again, I'm not saying I haven't watched 10 games of Hakeem every season. I've seen his finals runs, and I've seen a couple of his regular season games. I'm not going to act like it, but every time I see Hakeem play, I'm just, this man's defense is incredible.
Listen, I think Hakeem's, and this will prove to you that I'm as unbiased as they come. I think Hakeem's 200 blocks and 100 steals is more impressive than Jordan's 200 steals and 100 blocks, because Jordan has a 6'6" guard who can jump through the roof. Versus a 7-footer getting steals.
I hear you.
Like, I put 100 steals from a 7-footer ahead of 100 blocks by a guy who can jump like that, especially because he gets to come off the weak side. Hakeem's not sneaking up on you to get those steals, right? He's not.
And the way the game was played back then, 80s and 90s, like Hakeem was just so much more valuable defensively position, right? That center position, everything's coming at the rim.
Yeah. Hakeem. Oh my God, he's one of the guys that if he was in today's NBA, he's dropping 30 a night. He's winning Defensive Player of the Year, or at least in the conversation, every single season. And he's probably dropping 6 assists a game, because don't people forget how good he could pass, right? And again, because what are you going to do with Hakeem in the post? You're going to double him. What's he going to do? He's going to kick it out to now a 3-point shooter who's knocking down 40%. Buddy, his assists go through the roof.
And he probably shoots a lot more threes because he was a shooter. He could probably
shoot a couple threes too.
Yeah, today he might just be Wemby, just a 7-foot Wemby instead of 7'6".
Well,
The handle was cool too. Like, his handle was terrible.
Wemby is just the new version of Ralph Sampson.
Yeah, I've heard this say. Yeah,
Have you seen him? But anyways, that's a different story. So that's my thing. That's my thing. If you guys want to chime in, those of you in the chat about the article, please feel free. I'll answer any questions. Again, I'm not saying it's true or it's false. The stat padding, what I'm saying is that article proves nothing, but it's a great conversation piece. And Tom Haberstroh gets a nice bump in sports in his page.
He's getting a raise. He's definitely getting a raise.
No, he's been around for a long time. Like he used to be an NBA ESPN, I want to say. Like he's been around for a while. No one ever explained why he got fired, but anyways, that's a different conversation for another day. I have an article coming out too. I'll send you a copy about it. I did a deep dive of certain players' MVP season, and I looked at 6 games and found that their offensive numbers aren't quite as good as you'd think. And if you extrapolate that over their career, they're out of the GOAT debate. So I'll post that. It'll be on sportsfluent.com coming up shortly. Team USA, and then we're going to do NBA free agents. They're getting ready to play. The guy that shouldn't even be on the team is already crying for fouls playing against the university guys, Joel Embiid. Have you seen this clip yet?
No, I've seen the clip. I haven't seen the clip.
Yeah, he's like, faking and drawing fake fouls and crying about
in a scrimmage. That's funny. That's pretty funny in a scrimmage. Not gonna lie, Joel Embiid is still Joel Embiid, but it's pretty funny on a scrimmage.
How do you feel? How do you feel about a non-American playing on Team USA?
I mean, he's an American citizen now.
He's an American citizen. A person not born in the USA.
I mean, yeah. So I think if you immigrate to a country and if you feel like that country is home now because of how they've embraced you, the opportunities given you, I don't think there's any problem you becoming a citizen. And if by the rule, if all it takes, I mean, for you to play for a country, you'd become a citizen, I think it's perfectly fine, right? I think when you say they have to be born there, it could open up a bit of a Pandora's box of, I mean, how do you tell if someone came here at 5 years old, grew up in America, culture, all that? Yeah, I know. Yeah, they can't be president. That's a different conversation too that we could have. But the whole Team USA thing, I think, become a citizen.
I think if you can't be president, you can't play for the country.
Damn, I would do that. I just think it takes away.
Why? He's one player.
It is. I know, but I just think
do they need Joel Embiid?
No. I think obviously in this particular game, just one case, sure. But I think there'll be plenty of kids who.
And for the record, I said the same thing about Hakeem Olajuwon when he played for Team USA. I said that was nonsense.
That's actually. I mean, you mentioned Hakeem too. That's one of the reasons I have. We can move on. I guess maybe we can talk about this after too, where. That 96 team, I think that 96 team is definitely better than the 92 team. I think the 2012 team is better. That 92 team, when you talk about the all-aura team, I think it's great, like the story behind it, what they did by the moment. But if you really break down the player for player and look at it, that 92 team to me is a little overhyped, overbranded.
That 92 team may be, I don't want to say overrated, but they're not, I don't think they're as good as people think because they look at the players on the team, the names, and they think of them in their prime.
Exactly.
And you got to remember that team had a lot of holes. They had no quick guards, right? Because it was John Stockton and Magic. So they had that's why Bobby Hurley went nuts on them. In that scrimmage. Now, granted, then they put Jordan on him, and that put an end to that. Because that was Jordan at his peak, right? But inside, I don't think I think they dominate every other team inside.
This is the thing with the inside thing, though, right? Obviously, David Robinson
with the broken back.
Bird was not even. He was not.
He had Christian Laettner, who shouldn't have even been there. Yeah. So there's definitely and like I said, and then the guards. So those were their holes. Those were their holes.
Yeah. The big thing is interesting. So if you look at like the 2012 team, right, for Team USA, their big was Tyson Chandler. Obviously, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, but we'll use Patrick Ewing and David Robinson center. No, Tyson Chandler, they're better players. But what I'm saying, though, in a team, the value that Tyson Chandler brings defensively to that team.
No, but what he's
going to be asked to do, I think could be.
They would dominate him because they would play differently, and he'd be fouled out by the third quarter. He could not.
Tyson Chandler fouling out. Nah, see, I think we're just about Tyson Chandler. I think Tyson Chandler's a phenomenal defender. He has the size to handle those guys, body him up. And I don't think David Robinson and Patrick Ewing weren't asked to be those 20-10 guys. They
weren't. But if there was a guy like Tyson Chandler who was changing the game, they would have played different. Like the thing that we have to realize is they played a different way because they weren't really playing anybody that could keep up with them.
Sure,
so
exactly.
They were just so free flowing, right?
Yeah, they're playing high school.
Sorry, go down the line. So you had Tyson Chandler.
Yeah, no, I think Tyson Chandler, and I think every other position, whether it's like the point guard, shooting guard, small forward, that team you would like 2012 team. Bring up that roster real quick. Let's bring it up.
Yeah, bring it up. And while you bring it up, because this is what I would say. As good as anyone thinks Team USA, the dream team, the original dream team was, if you, and like, I get it, nobody likes Isaiah Thomas, but if you replace John Stockton, and I love John Stockton, but if you replace John Stockton with Isaiah Thomas, and you replace Christian Laettner with who should have been the college player, which was Shaq.
Oh yeah, that's different.
Over.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm with you. I'm with you.
You have speedy guard, and you have, and you have youth. And again, nothing against Patrick Ewing and David Rowe, but I mean, even David. Could you imagine you throw a lineup where it's like Shaq at center, David Robinson at the power forward, Scottie Pippen at the small forward, Jordan at the 2. And Isaiah at the 1, dude, you might not score. No,
I hear you. I hear you.
Like, they might hold you to 0.
Look, Isaiah Thomas, and Shaq on that team. This takes that team to a whole other place.
Right.
And even if they got, if Bird just said my back was too weak for me to,
sure, yeah, and that's the only like I said, that's the knock on them is Christian Laettner, Bird not being Bird, and not having a quick guard. But like I said, because of the Jordan Pippen, like any guard, you put Jordan and Pippen to trap them, they're done. Because Jordan's quickness at that time and defensive ability, and Pippen coming over with like his reach, you're gonna have a hard time. Like, I don't know any guard that's gonna not struggle against them, because everybody else can play one-on-one. Everybody else can play one-on-one defense with the exception of Chuck, but
with 2012 team, the point guard, I mean, you had Chris Paul, Darren Williams at the point guard. Again, Chris Paul at his peak, I think, was phenomenal. Darren Williams, too, people forget, was amazing during those times. You could make a case though, LeBron, because of matchup wise, you could play him at point. They still had Kobe Bryant.
What year are you doing? I thought you were doing 96.
Oh, nice. Oh, I thought we did 2000. Okay,
you said 96.
I said 96 to 2012. Yeah, I'm going to 96 too.
You can do whatever team you want, but
okay. Now I was going to see the 2012 team. That 2012 team with so LeBron James, LeBron, Kevin Durant coming into his peak. I think him versus Scottie would be interesting, or maybe LeBron's on Scottie, but Kevin Durant's going to cause problems. Kobe Bryant still there, and Kobe in 2012 he was still Kobe before the Achilles injury and all that. Kobe was still going to be Kobe.
Let me pause you for a second. Let me pause you. Kobe Bryant, my friend, was born in Philadelphia. He was not born in Italy. Just as a correction. Go ahead.
That and I think underrated player people don't realize this. Kevin Love at the 4 at that spot if you wanted to. Kevin Love in 2012, we're having conversations of him putting up numbers that were we haven't seen.
Karl Malone and Charles Barkley would eat Kevin Love for breakfast at their worst and their best and his best.
Kevin Love and Charles Barkley would be a matchup. Karl Malone is eating him, but Charles Barkley and Kevin Love at that point, I'm telling you, they are very similar players. They're not a lot of defense. No, I mean, not a lot of defense. Give you a ton of offense.
But Chuck is getting every rebound on that guy and knocking him to the floor every single time.
Kevin Love is a rebounder. It's not fluid. Kevin Love was giving you like 13.
Not Charles Barkley rebounder. Charles Barkley would destroy him. Listen, we look at Charles Barkley on TNT and we forget how crazy athletic Charles Barkley was. I think we forget how crazy. 6'4", 5 at max. And he was doing what he was doing. Like that dude was Charles Barkley was special, man.
I hear you. He was special. But I think Kevin Love was.
Kevin Love is no disrespect. Kevin Love was never special. Kevin Love was never special. He was really good. No, he was never special. He was really good. He was never special.
I think it was really good there. And then you have
he put up numbers on a bad team that never went to the playoffs. Let's just be honest. He put up numbers on a bad team that never went to the playoffs.
And then he got his championship ring. Had a big stop on Steph. Played well with the Cavs when he needed.
Yeah, why wasn't
I hear what you're saying,
Steph? Why did it have to be Kevin Love?
The switch. It was a switch.
Oh, yeah, sure.
The switch happened, and then you still have. You talk about athleticism. Russell Westbrook on that team. I'm saying Russell Westbrook blow by Unless you're going to put Jordan. You're really going to put Jordan or Scotty on Russell Westbrook? I think he's blown by everybody else.
Russell Westbrook is but drop coverage, make him shoot, and you're fine.
That's a good point.
Just make him shoot.
You're going to make him shoot? Okay.
Smart enough, right? They're smart enough. Just let him shoot, and he'll take it. Right? Like it's the same thing with Charles Barkley. If you want to beat when he was in Phoenix, when he's in Philadelphia, whatever. Yeah. Charles Barkley loves to shoot threes, except he shoots like 13%. He's the worst 3-point shooter of volume ever in the history of the NBA. Let him shoot. Let him shoot.
I wouldn't have to do that. Yeah, and then you have James Harden, Andre Iguodala. I think a guy like Andre Iguodala, again, when you have a team, again, the names of 1992, amazing.
Sure.
Guy like Andre Iguodala, just kind of do it all. What you need to do, defense, hustle plays. Like he's doing all of that. He knows his role. And I think so. With the 2012 team, they have a guy like Tyson Chandler and Andre Iguodala who know their role on this team, surrounded by the LeBron, Kobe's, Carmelos of the world, and all the star players that I think they're taking them. And 2008 is interesting. It really depends on how you view how Chris Bosh is able to handle it. I mean, Dwight Howard's at center too, but how you think Chris Bosh is able to do in that lineup? Because people bring up Carlos Boozer, but Chris Bosh at the 4. I mean, yeah, it's Chris Bosh at the 4.
Listen, here's the thing. Who are the guards again? Tell me the guards again. Is that Darren Williams and Chris Paul and Westbrook?
Darren Williams, Chris Paul, Westbrook, James Harden.
Okay, so one of them.
Kobe's the 2 guard too. Kobe's in the 2 guard.
Oh yeah, of course, and Kobe. So I think you're going to have a trade-off. So I think you're going to have guys like Darren Williams who will surprise you, James Harden. But I don't think you're playing James Harden and Kobe together a lot. It's going to be like Darren Williams and Kobe, and maybe Chris Paul and James Harden. Mm-hmm. So Jordan's covering one of them. So I think that kind of neutralizes the James Harden / the Kobe thing. Him and Kobe they kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Now, where I say the trade-off is Darren Williams and or Chris Paul. And the thing is, Chris Paul to a lesser extent, because I think you're right. People forget how good Darren Williams was, and he was faster than Chris Paul. Mm-hmm. Against Magic. They're not going to be able to do what they typically do, which is, right, they post up. They shoot mid-range. Well, they're going to have a really hard time doing that against Magic, so they're going to become outside threats and playmakers. I still think they blow by them because it's Magic in 91. Yeah. They're going to blow by them. So they're going to get to the rim pretty easy. The problem is, with those rules where there's goaltending allowed, no 3 seconds, they're going to run into Patrick Ewing, David Robinson.
They will.
And I think that will kind of neutralize. That's why that didn't hurt them too much, because the European teams had speedy guys who can get by the world teams, I said. But they had those guys waiting for them, so they kick it back out. And then I think the inside guys from small forward to power forward to center, I think they're better. So even though there's that weakness at guard, I don't think Chris Paul and Darren Williams are good enough to carry that team. Mm-hmm. And that's what they'd offensively, and that's what they would have to do. And then what are they going to do against Magic? Let's say Magic's going to post them up all day because he's got like a foot on them, right? He's going to be able to pass over them because there's nothing. They might have to switch and if they put LeBron or something on him, now we're talking about.
I was going to say, I think the lineup for me, it's like for sure LeBron, Durant, Kobe are going to be the starting lineup. Those 3 for sure. And then based on some matchups, players, you can decide who's going to be at center. Because I mean, LeBron at point. You're going
to go LeBron, Durant, Kobe. Yeah. So they're going to counter that with with Jordan, Pippen, and probably Magic. So LeBron, I think the weak link there is KD.
KD, a weak link, a 7-foot scoring god. And that, I get you. I guess
is he going to get the ball when Pippen's denying? Right. And don't forget, it's not like the other, LeBron is a playmaker, but then if you make him into a playmaker, well, now he's not scoring. And honestly, I'm going to get a lot of grief for what I'm about to say. LeBron James is a much better scorer than he is a playmaker, guys. LeBron is a top 5 scorer in the history of the NBA. And look, he might be a top 10, top 15 playmaker, but he's not top 5.
You think
he's not.
He's in the conversation, but I hear what you're saying.
I'd say probably top 10, but he's not. So again, I'm not saying it's leaps and bounds, but he's a better scorer than he is playmaker, because everyone's, he's pass first. No, he's not. Guys, he's not pass first. He's not. You know how I know he's not pass first? Because he shoots more field goal attempts than Kobe. Because he shoots 20 times a game. That's not pass first. Period. End of discussion. Magic shooting 13 times a game. that and getting 10, 11 assists, that's a pass first point guard. Sorry, you're wrong. And that's okay. That's the narrative. But hey, I'm giving him credit. I think he's a top 5 scorer. So if you force him to become a playmaker, I'm actually happy if he's
I don't
becoming.
think that stops him from scoring though. I don't think you.
No, I don't think it stops him. But what I'm saying is, if he's forced to become a playmaker, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that because I don't want him taking it to the rim. I don't want him, looking at the ball and pulling up because he's so never.
How do you do the Carmelo versus Karl Malone thing though? I like this is vice versa. Like Carmelo's obviously gonna probably destroy him on the inside.
I think if you want to win, Carmelo's on the bench.
I hear you, but
he's a black hole. He's a black hole. So is Carmelo, though. So
I'm gonna say, I think they're just kind of mismatched for each other, and they both take advantage of each other's.
Yeah, no, because every time you throw it into Carmelo, you're never going to see the ball again. Same with Carmelo. I'm putting in Charles Barkley and David Robinson or Patrick.
Team USA Melo though, international Melo.
Nice. There's only one ball.
There is. I do wish Dwight Howard was in that 2012 team. That would have made it. But 2008,
I think because of the youth, and the health, I'm probably going with the 12 team, because everyone wants to say, in their prime. They weren't all in their prime. Because if you give me prime Bird, I think we're having a whole different conversation.
Of course. Yeah, you get prime Magic, prime Bird.
Right? Like it's a different conversation. Like as great as Kevin Durant is, people forget when Bird was in his prime. Look, he's not fast, but he was smart. And he's 6'10", and he could shoot almost as good as Kevin Durant. So you got a guy who's big and who's going to body him, and let's be honest, he's going to talk smack to him, and that's the one thing I think might be the deciding factor. If you have Bird and Jordan talking trash to them, I don't know that like Kobe will do it back, but I think that gets into those other guys' heads. I think it gets into, like, I know for sure Chris Bosh folds like a cheap suit.
You think Chris? I mean, he's a nice
100%,
guy.
100%. He's such a nice guy, but I think he folds under that trash talk. I don't think Kevin Durant performs under trash talk. That's why he has to have 100 burners. That's why his brother has to come and attack me on Instagram. Do you know about this?
Yeah, you told me about it.
His brother coming after me because I said something bad about him. Like, the dude's a little too sensitive. I don't think he handles it. And again, the international rules. So there's hand checking, there's forearms in the back, there's goaltending, there's no 3-second rule. It's a different game. There's a reason why they struggled. Just think about this. Even that great 2012 team went into overtime and struggled against Spain.
That was a nice Spain team. Gotta give credit to that Spain team.
Are they as good as the 92 Dream Team?
No, but I'm saying that Spain team was better than every other team in 92 by a mile.
100%. But my point is, if Spain can take them to overtime, and we clearly know that the 92 Dream Team was better than that Spain team.
Well, I just think the Spain team could be competitive with the 92 team.
I'm not saying they couldn't, but they struggled because of the international game and the international rules. That's the only reason. Let's be honest. The reason Spain was in it.
And I hear you. Different game.
So, but those rules, those international rules, are more closely aligned with what the NBA guys were playing in the 90s. They've changed a lot of the rules to get away from that and be more entertaining, free flowing, right? Like the carries, the travels, those all get called. Even at last, go look at the last. Why did they lose? What did they finish? 4th in FIBA last year or the year before? USA? Yeah. Why do you think LeBron and Steph and all those guys had to come and play?
Yeah, remind the world. Let's remind them.
And go watch those games. They were getting called for travels, for carrying, like all the time. They just couldn't. The hand checking, right? There's a reason why guys like Luka will say it's harder to score in Europe than it is in the NBA.
Yep.
It's because of the goaltending. And when I say the goaltending, I'm not saying you can fully goaltend, but like the rebound, if it hits the rim, you can go grab it. It doesn't have to be outside of the cylinder. So a lot of those times where it hits and then maybe goes in, they can pull those out. It's tough. You got to be obviously exceptionally athletic or tall, whatever, to do it. So,
and about Chris Mullin was still at his peak.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Chris.
People underrate, because Chris Mullin, people forget before the injury situation happened with him, he was incredible. He was. Yeah, Chris Mullin was 25.
He was legit. He was legit. So Team USA, I think, walks through this one, right, and wins gold.
Team Canada, no joke. Again, we have enough NBA talent for one game in the finals. Enough NBA talent. I don't think it's going to be a walkthrough. I think Team Canada is a definite team that you can't take for granted. France always just has players that play well internationally. Like Nicholas Batum is just a guy who in the international plays like an MVP. I've seen like Batum,
Evan Fournier, although
this
choked
guy,
out.
he did, yeah. So guys like that, for some reason, Team France has that, and I just think again the Wemby factor.
Well, I think what happens is fringe players,
Yep,
Evan Fournier, etc.,
Mhm.
always play better for their country because I'm playing like Evan. I'm using him as the example. I'm playing for Detroit. How motivated am I? Oh, I'm playing 3 games for my country.
Mm.
It's a different mindset. It really is, right? It's a short period of time. Like the Lakers look like the greatest team ever in the in-season tournament, and then they got knocked out of the first round, right? Well, because they knew it was a short period of time. You play with a different mentality, and you have Gobert and Wemby. You can get a lot of blocks.
That's a lot. So that's a lot to deal with. No matter what team you're at, it's a lot to deal with. I still think again, Team Canada, when you have.
Are you mad at the Warriors for not letting Wiggins play?
Oh yeah, that's ridiculous. I think that's absolutely ridiculous to not let a guy play for his country. I've never. I understand like that's their business product or part of their product as a business. They have to kind of protect it, but man, just playing for your country, I don't know why. Like out of all, but why they let Steph do it?
Because he's not in a contract year. They're trying to trade him.
Oh, it's a contract thing. Injury happens.
Yeah.
I kind of get the business idea for it.
Like, Mrs. Fluent says he can slip and fall in the shower and break his leg. Like, so do they not let him shower? I'm like,
yeah, I get it, but it's just like Bush League. I just think it's a Bush League thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So we transition to free agency with Damian Plow. I can't say that without giggling. Sorry. Would like to know your opinion on where Brendan Ingram is most likely to sign. Which team has the best package to offer New Orleans and also cap space?
I'll say best package has to be a team with young players, draft picks. A team but he still has to be good. Like I would say OKC, but there's just no reason for him to go there now. The players, right. So a lot of teams have made moves.
I think Utah.
I thought they were trying to trade Markkanen. They might go into like somewhat of a rebuild. I don't know if they want to win.
They don't want to win. Okay, who could use Ingram?
Who could use Ingram in a somewhat winning situation?
It'd be great to get him back on the Lakers. I want everybody back that we traded for Anthony Davis, by the way.
Again, I've always said like that the trade with Anthony Davis, it goes back to like the Melo thing too. You could have waited a year or two, especially now knowing LeBron was going to be this good for this long. Because I think back then we still didn't know he'd be this good for this long. Kept your young core, signed Anthony Davis as a free agent who clearly just wanted to leave and would probably came here. You would still have Josh Hart, Lonzo, maybe his injury situation doesn't have whatever. Even if it happened, I think it would have been fine. Ingram,
no, but I like Josh. Yeah, I like having Josh Hart, Ingram,
Kuzma still there.
I like Alex Caruso. Like I really like that core.
Yeah, I never understood why teams rushed to get a trade done with a guy who like Melo could have came in with Danilo Gallinari still there, Raven Felder. They would have had a team ready for him. He would have jumped in, boom. Just like this, they just jumped the time again. Wasn't Anthony Davis going to be a free agent at the end of that year? Like it was done.
I believe.
He was going to leave. You could have waited a half season, or whatever, a full season, whatever it was.
Right. And it was win now, and that's the blessing and the curse of LeBron.
But I think if you knew now though, LeBron would be this good for this.
No, because even when LeBron was, anywhere after kind of 08. It was always you have LeBron, it's win now. So it's do what you have to do to win now, right? Like if you look at everyone wants to knock those teams.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to knock those like 09, 2010 Cavs teams. Oh, it was a horrible coach. Mike Brown is not a horrible coach. The rosters were terrible. They won 66 and 61 games. They were the number 1 seed in the NBA. And the Cavs had a top 3 salary. Now, did they pick all the right players? Did they draft all the right players? Did they sign all the right free agents? No, nobody does. But they were trying, right? Did they get rid of all their assets to try and win now? Yes, they did. What did Miami do?
Shaq.
What did Miami do? Got rid of all their, their future, right? Why do you think they have had all these undrafted players on their team?
They got 2 rings out of it. They're happy.
No, I'm not saying they're not happy, but
but they had to sacrifice the future.
it had to be win now. He goes back to Cleveland. It has to be win now. He goes to LA. It has to be win now. Now, the good news is everywhere that he's gone, they've won. So that's great. The downside is it's win now. So you make some decisions that aren't the best for the long term to win now. That's why I say it's a blessing and a curse because you do win, but it's now and it's.
I do think his first Cleveland stint, a weird curse was he got too good too fast where they couldn't draft any elite guys next to him. Like if he was just mediocre for the first couple of years, let's say, and it took him a while to get, I think they could have drafted maybe a couple elite guys, top 5 type of picks to put next to him. And
but the thing is, he didn't want those guys.
You know, they want. I mean, I think anybody would want a quality prospect or a quality guy. Who they drafted in his second and third year?
I'm actually just pulling that up because the thing is, like a guy like this was the second time around, but like Andrew Wiggins, everyone's gonna say, oh, he wasn't as good as everyone thought he was gonna be, right? But here's the thing: I think Andrew Wiggins on Cleveland next to LeBron,
Scottie Pippen. I
think we see a different player because he's gonna have someone who's pushing him to be better. And I think we see a more motivated, hungry. Like imagine Andrew Wiggins with a work ethic and hunger.
I hear you playing under LeBron, learning a few things. I definitely think he could have been a different player. I think at that point, but like you said though, it was always win now. Leaving Miami, the situation, he's like, all right, we got to win now. Kevin Love doing what Kevin Love did, that trade. I want to look at what Cleveland his first thing that who they drafted the second and third year. Because I just don't remember any like elite guys they ever drafted.
Well. Okay, they drafted after his rookie season, they draft Luke Jackson out of Oregon, but like after him was Andreas Bedrins, whatever. He's actually still in the league. Robert Swift, Sebastian Telfair, Chris Humphreys, Al Jefferson might have been a good pick. Kirk Snyder, Josh Smith, J.R. Smith, who they eventually get anyways. Darrell Wright, Jameer Nelson. Like it's not. There wasn't really much.
Where did they pick? I want to see. Where did they pick the guy?
They picked 10th.
They picked 10th. See, I mean, if he was worse, I mean, going for the first overall pick to the 10th next year.
Now, listen, could they have moved up one spot and got Iguodala? Right? Like there's
I want like a top three pick. You mean Dwight? I mean Okafor was cool. Ben Gordon.
You can't be
the Edmonton Oilers. Can't be the Edmonton Oilers and get back.
And then the next year, and here's the problem: they also trade their picks to sign these guys, right? So the next season they were out of the playoffs again, and they should have had a pick, but they didn't have one. They traded their first round pick. That pick, I believe, would have been around the Andrew Bynum selection, which would have been a really nice ad.
Yeah, but he never got like a top 5 pick. That's what I mean. Like they could have been bad enough.
They're not going to get a. No, you're not going to get a top. How many people get a top 5 pick after?
I think quite a few teams. No, you're bad one year. You're probably next year.
Who got a superstar player and then got a top 5 pick?
No, not Minnesota. No, I'm trying to think who had a first overall pick. And
right. And then look, the next year again, they don't pick until 25. They get Shannon Brown.
Then they're the 20s throughout. They're basically in the 20s throughout.
And then they're 20s because now he's been there for 3 years and they're good. 07, right? They obviously didn't make the NBA Finals. So
what's his first pick this year?
This year?
Yeah. What's first pick decent this year?
You have to look. I don't know off the top of my
2024.
Let's see. So now I'm at 2008. Still looking for a
first pick fourth. Spurs pick fourth. They got a top 5 pick after Wemby.
Yeah, but Wemby's not a superstar player right now.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So, like LeBron, if LeBron wasn't the superstar right away, it could have helped the situation.
They still tanked. But they still tanked this year with Wemby on purpose. Like, look at who was around him. They purposely, like, if Cleveland would have brought him in and said, "Hey, we're going to lose. Let's keep losing."
Yeah,
it would have been fine. But they didn't do that. Okay, then here, 19th, they pick in 2009. They picked JJ Hickson at 19. There was guys, man. There was Serge Ibaka. Nicholas Batum, George Hill.
There's guys available. Yeah, the draft is
guys available after him. Now, again, when you're in the 20s, it's tough to project. 2009, probably the last year that they have No, this pick is going to be in the late. No, they don't have a first. Oh, they
I was
picked
gonna say
last.
okay. I thought they traded one for the Antoine Jameson trade or something.
Yeah. That's the thing though. There was a couple years where they didn't have one because they traded away for these other guys where they could have had a top 10 pick. Because don't forget, if they're in the lottery, they could be a top 5 pick. But if you don't have a first rounder, you have no chance. So those years that they were out, it's just unfortunate. And then I don't think they even have they got nothing. But again, are they going to hit on a second round pick? Like I don't expect them. They're not good.
Can't bank on that. Yeah, no, you can't.
They're not
You
a good
can't
drafting team.
Yeah, no.
Right. Like if you think, even when he's gone and they get all these first round picks, it's not like they were making good picks anyways. Like that's the thing. If he stays in Cleveland, like I don't know that he has a ring.
I mean, like I said, because they don't get Kyrie because they're not going to be that bad.
Exactly.
They don't ever get a top.
And then when you think about it, when he goes to Miami and they go into tank mode, they get the first overall pick. It's Kyrie. People forget they also had the 4th overall pick.
And messed that one up.
Now they picked Tristan Thompson, and like if you look at, they're not world beaters, but right after him, Jonas Valanciunas, Bismack Biyombo, Brandon Knight, Kemba Walker, Klay Thompson.
You get Clay there with Kyrie and LeBron comes.
The Morris twins. Hold on, Kawhi Leonard. Like there's a lot of guys. Now, granted, he doesn't go until 15. But I mean,
Thompson was never that good. I don't know why. He was such an old school type of big, and
he wasn't. And then the next year they got 1st and 4th. The next year they get 4th again. They go Dion Waiters.
Oh, the Dion Waiters who he thought he was the MVP of the league. He thought he was so much better than he really was.
But here's the thing: almost everybody after Dion Waiters, okay, not Thomas Robinson, but Damian Lillard, Harrison Barnes, Terrence Ross, Andre Drummond. Like when there's 3 or 4 guys right after. Yeah, right. Like that's why I say I have no faith in their drafting. Now the Anthony Bennett one, Victor Oladipo would have looked a whole lot better. Otto Porter Jr.
would have looked better, 100%. 3 and D type of guy, yeah.
Right,
I mean, first overall pick would have been crazy for Otto Porter. Who was second overall?
Again, it's so easy to look back and say, oh, they could have they could have drafted down to 10 and taken Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like. Now again, that's not necessarily realistic. And then they go Andrew Wiggins, but they trade him for Kevin Love. But you know who went 3rd?
Who went 3rd in that Wiggins trade?
Joel Embiid.
Oof.
Aaron Gordon goes 4th. I mean, excuse me, Marcus.
Well, Wiggins was like a unanimous first overall pick. He was pretty hyped. So.
Not. Listen, I might have been. I don't trust Canadians. I'm sorry.
Wow. Okay. The Wiggins hype was he was the next.
Yeah, I know. I didn't see that the fire, right? And it's the same thing I knocked Vince Carter for, the fire, right? The fire drives me, or the lack of, drives me nuts.
Their 3 stretch pick of Tristan Thompson, Dion Waiters, and Anthony Bennett. Man, that really hurt. Like they still got a regular bracket. Yeah, they could have built a dynasty. Like they legitimately could have built a dynasty.
Yeah, and listen, you gotta get lucky. You gotta get lucky. Yeah. And then of course they're winning championships, so they're not picking. But again, if you look, they in 16, they don't even have a first round pick.
Yeah, by the time LeBron got there, they weren't really picking.
Right, like
guys.
Do they have one? There might be a couple of years in a row where they don't have a. Yeah, no, not 2 years. The 17.
They gave up. Yeah, they gave up Wiggins.
Yeah,
no. Dion Waiters in that trade too.
And then now obviously then he leaves right in 2018. They have 2018. They're picking 8th. They take Colin Sexton.
When LeBron left, yeah.
You know who came after him at 10 and 11? Mikal Bridges and SGA.
Cleveland's really bad. We gotta make a list of the worst drafting teams. Cleveland might be near the bottom.
Cleveland might be. Look, I get it. It's drafting. It's always just like crazy. Like you never know. But I mean, like if it's bad luck, bad drafting, whatever. Like they always just seem to take the wrong. With the exception of LeBron, they always take the wrong person. Like if Cleveland. Let's not forget, Cleveland was tied for the worst record in the NBA with Denver. If Denver wins that lottery, they take LeBron James. I don't think they take Carmelo. They're probably the ones who take Darko Milicic. Like, there's
Yeah, that Darko hype was. Yep. No, I'm with you. That would have been woo.
that
That
bad.
changes lives. Yep.
So I want to end it. I want to end it with this question, and then we're going home. NBA free agency. Who made the best move in free agency? Who made the worst move in free agency?
Best move. Can do a cop on, give it a tie between two teams.
Okay.
I'm gonna do Philadelphia, adding Paul George, giving Joel Embiid maybe kind of last hurrah, giving a piece to possibly get him over the top. Paul George, all NBA caliber player. So I think that's a great move. And OKC adding Hardenstein, just like the perfect player that they needed. Everybody thought he'd be a great fit. Their guys clearly listen, are smart, sign the guy. Obviously not a superstar, but for what they need, maybe the perfect fit. Probably the most perfect player for what they needed and where they're going to. So Hardenstein, I think, was phenomenal. Worst, I'm going with. I think Dallas might have been the worst. Dallas might be. I don't think Klay Thompson is Klay Thompson. I think that defense with Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, and Klay Thompson is getting blown by every single time. It's going to be so bad unless Derek Lively turns into Hakeem
Or
Olajuwon.
150.
Yeah, no, it's going to be real bad. So I actually think that might be.
I wouldn't even worry about it because Clay's not going to play even like half the season.
Hey,
The best move, Sand City Sports stole my answer. And now he's biased because he's a New York Knicks fan, but you're absolutely right. I think the Mikal Bridges Knicks is phenomenal because that's exactly what that team needs. Because now you can put a lineup of Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby, and you're gonna have some it's gonna cause defensive nightmares.
Oh yeah, who's their center? It's going to be Robinson.
Mitchell Robinson, and hopefully they need a backup. There's some options. Because hopefully he stays healthy because I really like Mitchell Robinson. So I think Bridges is absolutely, and there's a tie for the best. And I'm going to go with the worst first. The worst is the 76ers, Paul George, because Paul George has never been the answer. Eric Gordon has never been the answer. Andre Drummond has never been the answer. They're going to be sadly disappointed again. So it's a tie for worst because you're right. Klay Thompson to Dallas was a name versus a game. And I never want you to draft or sign or trade for a name versus a game because he's not Klay. He's not the one game 6. By the way, game 6 Klay's a lie too because we did an analysis. We did an analysis of all his game 6s. Not that good. Like as an average, not that good.
You just gotta have 3 or 4 elite ones, and you'll get that reputation.
Yeah, exactly. So Klay to Dallas, 100%. But I think Paul George has never been the answer. They're still not getting out of the second round. And you're all going to be sorry, Philadelphia fans. You're all going to be pissed off.
Remember that Clippers clip? They're all I think casino walking. They're like, "This is our city now with Beverly, George."
Let me tell you something. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in their entire stint together with the Buffalo Braves, aka LA Clippers, didn't win as many NBA playoff series as Kawhi won in Toronto in one season.
Ooh, talk about it. For
a minute. Kawhi won more playoff series in his one playoff run in Toronto than he did the whole 5 years with Paul George in LA. So he's not the answer. And like I said, Eric Gordon and Andre Drummond are also not the answer. Although I do like Tyrese Maxey. So that's the worst signing. Klay is tied. And then for the best move, it's a tie between Mikal Bridges and all the other teams who didn't sign Paul George.
I mean, you really don't think Paul George difference maker. We'll see.
I know for a fact he's not because I just saw it for the last 5 years.
That's true. I mean, he has been a guy who we thought would take.
I don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't care what people think or who you think you are, what you think. I care about what I see, and what I see is nothing. Nothing. Super skilled, super talented, cool. If I'm there to win, what does he want?
I mean, nothing. An interesting one is, look, I wouldn't be shocked if Chris Paul averages double-digit assists next year. It's kind of crazy.
He's going to throw 5-10
I'm going to
loops.
say it, right? I'm like, yeah, Wemby's getting a few lobs easy. They still have other scorers there. Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. Like, they have bucket getters who, with a guy like Chris Paul.
Chris Paul is interviewing. Chris Paul is interviewing for a head coaching job.
I can see that. I can see
that's what he's Pop needs a replacement. So I think that move doesn't make sense on the court, with except for he's going to be a teacher and potential move to, like, it didn't work out so well with Jason Kidd in New Jersey, but kind of like New Jersey, where he went straight from playing to coaching the Nets. I think that's what you're going to see with Chris Paul. I don't know how that flies though, because by all accounts, Chris Paul's a dick.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't seem to be the most likable. Yeah.
So I don't know. Now. Then again, Larry Bird was the biggest trash talker jerk too, but he turned out to be a great coach. So you never really know, but we'll see. That's it.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
It is not ridiculous to say that this is it. It's time to go. Any other last words before we head out?
Any other last words? In the words of Chilltown, call your mother, call your father, call your grandmother, call your grandfather. There's only so many times. Hey, one day those phone calls will stop, right? So.
Oh, dude, don't end it on that.
I'm just saying, one day they will. So call him up, man. Call him up.
No, you know what? Forget everything he said. Here's. We'll end it on this. You can't take it with you, so spend it.
Hey.